I've got 6 pounds of beef back ribs here, but we're not going to be taking them out to the smoker. No, today I'm going to be showing you a way to make these and get terrific results using your oven. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to get a rub on these, and we're not actually going to be making these today. They're going to go in the refrigerator overnight. I just find that gives it a better chance to absorb some of the flavors. We're almost dry brining these. And you have seen me, if you've watched any of my videos, I don't know that I've ever used binders. The reason I don't is usually the meat has enough moisture on the surface to kind of grab onto whatever rub you're going to put onto it. This is a little dry, so I'm actually going to add a binder today. I'm going to use a little bit of avocado oil, and I'm only going to put it on the surface on the meat side here. Just a little drizzle. And you can probably see that we have some loose pieces over here, almost like some little rib tips. And then one rib that kind of got out of the pack. Just going to rub this oil over the surface. Just get a light coating. We don't need a lot here. Now on beef back ribs, you can remove the membrane on the back. I don't like to, it's just a personal thing. These can get very tender and they tend to fall apart. And I want to keep them together as racks until we cut them. There's not a lot of meat on that back side of the bone. So if you want to at the end, if you want to kind of scrounge any off of there, you can just pull off that membrane once it's cooked. But I find that most people just eat these and they just ignore the back side there. All right, we're gonna get our rub on, and what I'm using today is Smiling Swine Barbecue Steak and Chop Rub. I find that this goes really, really nice with beef. Especially sort of big cuts of beef. I know it's called a steak and chop rub, but I haven't really used it on steaks that much. I just really love this on, like I said, big cuts of beef. Chuck roasts, beef ribs, I've used it on short ribs. We're gonna give it a generous coating here. I'm not even going to bother with the back side. There's the membrane on there. So I'm just going to go ahead and get these into some Ziploc bags. It's going to go in the refrigerator overnight. And tomorrow I'll see you when we cook these up in the oven, and we're going to be glazing them with a sauce you might not expect that I would use, but I think it's going to be really good. So I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, our beef back ribs have been soaking in the flavors from that rub overnight. Now it's time to get them into the oven. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on racks like this. These are baking cooling racks on a rimmed baking sheet. This is just going to help keep a little more circulation going around them. I'm also going to add a little bit of water once this is in the oven, just to keep some moisture in there. See, these are going to take up some of that space there. You got a few of those extra little pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and get that other rack on a separate sheet, and then we will get these into the oven. All right, our oven is up to temp. We're going to be cooking these at 275 today. Normally I'd cook beef ribs at about 250 if I was doing it on the smoker, but I want these to be done a little bit sooner than it would take doing it 250 in the oven, and this will be great. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of water to each of these pans so we have some moisture in here. We're going to close this up, let these ribs go, and we'll check them in 2 hours. All right, it's been 2 hours. Time to check our ribs. Now, beef back ribs do not win any beauty contests. You get so much pullback from the bone that sometimes there's just bone left exposed. But it is great flavor, great tenderness, and I just want to see, yeah, we're starting to get some good tenderness there. So you know what? I think it is time to take these and put them in a foil pan and glaze them with that sauce that I mentioned but didn't tell you what it was. So let's go ahead and get these out of here, get them into a foil pan, get them back in to finish up. So I have one of the racks of these beef back ribs in a foil pan here. I'll get the other one in a second, but first I want to start glazing this. And what I'm going to be using is a kimchi hot sauce. Found this at a local market and it tastes great. It's not really too spicy, but it has a lot of great flavor in it. You get down in between too. There's our second rack. And if you wanted to, you could split these in half so they fit more evenly in here. I'm not going to worry about that. If one rests on top of the other one, it's not going to hurt anything. Like I said, beef back ribs generally don't win beauty contests, but man, does the meat taste great. Got our lonely little guy here who fell off earlier. We're not going to forget about him though. And our little pieces that are almost like rib tips. Give those a quick brush. I want to add a little bit of water to this foil pan, just so we have some moisture in there when we cover it up. As maybe half a cup to 3/4 of a cup of water. You could add any other sort of flavoring in here. I'd stay away from things that are too sugary though, because you don't want them to burn in there. If you do add, say, an apple juice or something like that, I'd dilute it a little bit with some water. Let's go ahead and get this covered up with foil. We're going to be double sealing this today. All right, let's go get this back in the oven. All right, we're going to let these go for about an hour, and then we'll have a look. Okay, our beef back ribs have been going for just a little over an hour in the foil pan here. Let's unwrap them and have a look. Oh, I love that smell coming off these. I just want to check again for tenderness here. These are looking good. But what I want to do now is I'm going to transfer these back to the original trays they were on to finish up in the oven for maybe 30 or 45 minutes. Help sort of set the outside of these. Put these right back on here. We'll put our little rib tip section on this one here. All right, let's get these back in the oven. We're going to let these go for 30 to 45 minutes. See you back here when it's time to take them out of the oven. So I pulled one of the racks out of our foil pan after that 30 to 40 minutes. I think it was right around 40 minutes in the oven. Just want to do a quick check here with the Thermapen to show you that it is tender. I can already tell it's tender just from the way it came out of the foil pan when I picked it up. But here you go. It is just sliding through, just like butter. And again, back ribs do not win beauty contests. You can see there's a lot of bone exposed. If you were doing this on the smoker, my experience is that this would be almost black. And so it looks burned, even though it's not. It's that nice sort of crust on the outside. In the oven, you can get a little bit more of this mellow color here based upon the sauce you're using. So let's go ahead and cut into these. All right. Now these are very hot, so I'm gonna leave my gloves on here, but I'm not waiting anymore. It is time to taste. So on back ribs, as you can see, you have sort of that thinner amount of meat. It's not gonna puff up like it would on a short rib. There's less of that meat on the top of the bone here especially, so you're not gonna get a lot of beefy mass on top. But the flavor, I can tell you from experience, is gonna be fantastic. So let's go. That is really good. I gotta say, you get an immediate kick from that kimchi hot sauce. It's not overpoweringly hot. It's got a lot of flavor in it, but you do know it's there. Really nice addition to this. And back ribs, just like short ribs or plate ribs, they give you that beefy flavor. There's really no other way to describe it. When you're eating a beef rib, the flavor is intensified. It's the fat in there. You give it that time to render down. If you were doing it even lower and slower, say out on the smoker, you'd even get more flavor from it. We're doing it a little faster here in the oven at 275, but you're not losing any flavor here. That's really good. 3 hours and 40 minutes total in the oven at 275 degrees, 2 hours just on the racks, another hour in the foil pan with some of that sauce, a little bit of water, and a final 40 minutes to finish it off there and sort of tighten up the skin on the outside. You could definitely go longer if you want them even more tender. I would do that time in the foil pan, not exposed. I wouldn't really go any longer than, like I said, 45 minutes on that final time open on the rack. But for me, these are just perfect. So if you find back ribs, don't ignore them. I've said that in several videos before when I've used beef back ribs. They tend to be ignored in favor of their puffier cousin, the short rib, but they can deliver a lot of flavor, a lot of tenderness, and oftentimes you're going to pay half the price that you would for short ribs. Half the price and the same great flavor.